Hello, my name is Jiso, and I'm reading Master Dōgen's Shōbōgenzō. And we're on chapter 22. We've been on chapter 22 for some time. Bussho, the Buddha nature. We're on paragraph 62. National Master Sai-an from the Enkan district of Koshu is a venerable patriarch in Bussho's lineage. One day he preaches to the assembly, all living beings have the Buddha nature. These words, all living beings, should be investigated at once. The actions, ways, circumstances, and personalities of all living beings are not only one, and their views are miscellaneous. Common men, non-Buddhists, the 3 vehicles, the 5 vehicles, and so on, may be concrete individuals. The meaning of all living beings, as described now in Buddhism, is that all those that have mind are living beings, for minds are just living beings. Those without mind may also be living beings, for living beings are just mind. So minds are all living beings, and living beings all have the Buddha nature. Grass, trees, and national minds, national lands, are the mind itself. Because they are mind, they are living beings, and because they are living beings, they have the Buddha nature. The sun, the moon, and the stars are mind itself. Because they are mind, they are living beings, and because they are living beings, they have Buddha nature. The having Buddha nature of which the National Master speaks is like this. If it is not like this, it is not the having Buddha nature of which we speak in Buddhism. The point expressed now by the National Master is only that all living beings have the Buddha nature. Those who are utterly different from living beings might be beyond having the Buddha nature. So now let us ask the National Master, do all Buddhas have the Buddha nature or not? We should question him and test him like this. We should research that he does not say all living beings are the Buddha nature itself, but says all living beings have the Buddha nature. He needs to get rid of the have in have the Buddha nature. Getting rid is the single track of iron. The single track of iron is the way of the birds. I'm just going to read the footnote. In other words, getting rid is what makes the world one, and to make the world one is the transcendent way. Yeah. Then the nature of all Buddhas possess living beings. The principle not only elucidates living beings, but also elucidates the Buddha nature. The National Master is not struck by realization of this understanding while he is expressing the truth, but that is not to deny that he will be struck by the realization in time. Neither is his expression of the truth today without meaning. Moreover, we do not always understand ourselves, the truths with which we are equipped, but the 4 elements and the 5 aggregates are present nonetheless, and skin, flesh, bones, and marrow are present nonetheless. This being so, there are cases in which expressions are expressed by a whole life, and there are individual moments of life which are dependent upon their expression. Zen Master Dai-en of Dai-san Mountain one day preaches to the assembly, all living beings are without Buddha nature. Among the human beings and gods who hear this, there are those of great makings who rejoice, and there is no absence of people who are astonished and doubtful. The words preached by Shakyamuni are, all living beings totally have the Buddha nature. The words preached by Dai are, all living beings are without the Buddha nature. There may be a great difference between the meaning of have and are without as words, and some might doubt which expression of the truth is accurate and which not. But only all living beings are without the Buddha nature is the senior in Buddhism. Although Enkan's words about having the Buddha nature seem to stretch out a hand together with the eternal Buddha, the situation may be a staff being carried on the shoulders of two people. Now, Dai is not like that. The situation may be the staff swallowing the two people. Moreover, the national master is Bussho's disciple, and Dai is Bussho's grandson's disciple. Grandson disciple. Yet the Dharma grandson is a veteran of the truth of his grandfather master, and the Dharma son is a youngster in the truth of his father master. The conclusion which Dai expresses now is that he has seen all living beings are without the Buddha nature as the conclusion. He is never describing a nebulous state which is wide of the mark. He possesses the state in which he is receiving and retaining like this a concrete sutra within his own house. We should grope on further. How could all living beings be the Buddha nature? How could they have the Buddha nature? If any have the Buddha nature, they might be a band of demons. Bringing a demon's sheet, they would like to lay it over all living beings. Because the Buddha nature is just the Buddha nature, living beings are just living beings. Living beings are not originally endowed with the Buddha nature, even if they want to be endowed. The point is that the Buddha nature cannot start coming to them. Do not say that Mr. Chang drinks sake and Mr. Lee gets drunk. If a being were to have the Buddha nature, it would never be a living being, and a state in which living beings are present is ultimately other than the Buddha nature. For this reason, Hyakujo says, to preach that living beings have the Buddha nature is to insult Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. And to preach that living beings are without the Buddha nature is also to insult Buddha, Dharma and Sangha. So to say have the Buddha nature and to say are without the Buddha nature both become an insult. Even if they become an insult, we should not refrain from saying them. Now, I would like to ask you, Dai and Hyakujo, I do not deny that it is an insult, but have you been able to explain the Buddha nature or not? If they are able to explain, the explanation will restrict the explanation itself. If there is an act of explaining, it will experience the same state as the act of hearing. Further, I would like to say to Dai, although you have expressed the truth that all living beings are without the Buddha nature, you have not said that all the Buddha nature is without living beings, and you have not said that all the Buddha nature is without the Buddha nature. Still more, you have never even seen in a dream that all Buddhas are without the Buddha nature. Let us see you try again. Zen Master Daiichi of Hyakujo Zan Mountain preaches to the assembly, Buddha is the supreme vehicle, it is the highest wisdom. The truth of this state of Buddha establishes the person. The Buddha has the Buddha nature. It is a guiding teacher. It has command of the style of behavior which is free of hindrances. It is unhindered wisdom. Hence, it is able to utilize cause and effect, and it is free in happiness and wisdom. It becomes the carriage that carries cause and effect. In life, it is not subject to detention by life. In death, it is not subject to detention by death. In the five aggregates, it is like a gate opening, unhindered by the five aggregates. It departs and stays freely and leaves and enters without difficulty. If the state can be like this, regardless of relative rank, superiority or inferiority, for even the body of an ant can be like this, then this is totally the pure and fine land and is the unthinkable. These then are the words of Hyakujo. The five aggregates are the immortal body of the present. The moment of the present is a gate opening. It is beyond being hindered by the five aggregates. When we utilize life, we are not detained by life. When we utilize death, we're not hindered by death. Do not be unduly in love with life, and do not be unreasonably afraid of death. They are just the place where the Buddha nature exists, and those who are disturbed or offended at this are non-Buddhists. To affirm the Buddha nature as the miscellaneous circumstances manifest before us is to command the style of behavior which is free of hindrances. I'm going to read that sentence again. It's a lovely sentence. To affirm the Buddha nature as the miscellaneous circumstances manifest before us is to command the style of behavior which is free of hindrances. Such is this Buddha, which is the supreme vehicle. To place where this Buddha exists is the pure and fine land itself. I really want to stop there because that's such a good sentence. But I think I need to just add a little bit more, and then of course over the page we've got Joshu. Let's just read one more paragraph. One more paragraph. Obaku is sitting in Nansen's tea room. Nansen asks Obaku, if we equally practice balance and wisdom, we clearly realize the Buddha nature. How about this theory? Obaku says, through the 12 hours, without relying on a single thing, we have got it already. Nansen says, that is not the patriarch's own viewpoint, is it? Obaku says, I would not be so bold as to say so. Nansen says, for the present, I will waive the cost of your soy and water, but what person can I get to return to me the cost of your straw sandals? Obaku then desists. Master Nansen's words are ironic praise. The point of this equal practice of balance and wisdom is that as long as the practice of balance does not hinder the practice of wisdom, there is clear realization of the Buddha nature in their equal practice. The point is that in the state of clearly realizing the Buddha nature, there is practice, which is the equal practice of balance and wisdom. Nansen says, how about this theory? This may be the same as saying, for example, clearly realizing the Buddha nature is the action of who? To say the Buddha nature's practice of equality clearly realizes the Buddha nature, how about this theory, would also be an expression of the truth. Obaku says, the 12 hours do not rely on a single thing. The point here is that although the reality of the 12 hours is located in the reality of the 12 hours, it is beyond reliance. Because the state of not relying on a single thing is the reality of the 12 hours, the Buddha nature is clearly realized. As the arrival of what moment, and as the existence of what national land should we see this reality of the 12 hours? Must the 12 hours mentioned now be the 12 hours of the human world? Do the 12 hours exist in far distant places? Have the 12 hours of a world of white silver just come to us temporarily? Whether they are of this land or whether they are of other worlds, they are beyond reliance. They are the reality of the 12 hours already, and so they may be beyond reliance. Saying, that is not the patriarch's own viewpoint, is it? Is like saying, you do not say that this is your viewpoint, do you? Though Nansen says, is it the patriarch's own viewpoint, Obaku cannot turn his head to Nansen and say, it is mine, because while it is exactly befitting to himself, it is not Obaku's. Obaku is not always only himself, and the patriarch's viewpoint is the state of being disclosed in complete clarity. Obaku says, I would not be so bold. In the land of Sung, when you are asked about an ability which you possess, you say those words, I would not be so bold. To suggest that the ability is your own ability. That was one sentence. Obaku says, I would not be so bold. In the land of song, when you are asked about an ability which you possess, you say these words, I would not be so bold, to suggest that the ability is your own ability. So the expression, I would not be so bold, is not a lack of confidence. We should not suppose that this expression means what it says. Though the patriarch's viewpoint is the patriarch himself, though the patriarch's viewpoint is Obaku himself, in expressing himself, he should not be so bold. The state may be a water buffalo coming up and mooing. To speak in this state is speech. We should also try to express in other speech that is speech the principle that Obaku expresses. Nansen says, for the present I will waive the cost of your soy and water, but what person can I get to return to me the cost of your straw sandals? In other words, let us set aside for a while the cost of your broth, but who can I get to return to me the cost of your straw sandals? We should exhaust life after life investigating the intention of these words. We should apply the mind and diligently research why he is not concerned for the present about the cost of soy and water. Why is he concerned about the cost of straw sandals? As if to say, in your years and months of wayfaring, how many straw sandals have you trod through? Now, Obaku might say, I have never put on my sandals without repaying the cost. Or he might say, 2 or 3 pairs. This could be his expression of the truth. And this could be his intention, but Obaku then desists. This is desisting. It is neither to stop because of not being affirmed oneself, nor to stop because of not affirming the other. A monk of true colours is not like that. Remember, there are words in desisting as there are swords in laughter. Obaku's state is the Buddha nature clearly realizing satisfaction with morning gruel and satisfaction with midday rice. Amazing. Thank you for listening.